Welcome to Duo Chat with Brittany
and Cynthia, where we talk about drama shows.
like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, and more.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Cynthia.
And today we're talking about season 2, episode 4, titled You Can't Always Get What You Want. Air date October 12th, 2004, and the synopsis is
Brooke has a new neighbor who starts going to Tree Hill High. At college, Karen gets to know her business professor, Andy Hargrove. When Lucas tells he wants to use Dan's rehab to get to know him properly, Nathan gives him his blessing. Dan orders Keith to fire Nathan to no avail. When Keith advises against the secondhand car Haley and he had hoped to buy, Nathan spends the money on a keyboard so she can work on her music. Kaden gets a chance to have a band play for her club night, but only if she supplies them with cocaine and gets pressured to do it. Deb encourages Karen to start another business. Now that she's poor, Brooke is caught shoplifting, but Felix saves her. Keith offers Nathan to learn car mechanics by fixing a car together, which Nathan may then keep. Okay, so we start off by Brooke waking up to the noise of her new neighbor swimming in her family's pool. After he doesn't,
it was really, really funny.
mm-hmm. After he doesn't respond to her, just by looks, she assumes he's Latino and says hola. He ends up responding to that. She said she doesn't know what her mom told him, but pool boys don't get swimming privileges. So assuming again. And then the guy says, lo siento, which means I'm sorry. And Brooke doesn't understand Spanish. So she replies with, I siento you too. So she just says, I'm sorry, you too. She then tries to make the English more simple and Spanish sounding by saying, get ye out ye. The guy listens and stands up, grabbing a towel to wrap himself with, making Brooke now see that he was skinny dipping.
Oh, but she was really funny because she was like, "You know, swim here."
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, she's so funny.
Yeah. But of course, I recognize the guy playing Felix because he was the one who played Ricky from the boy band Boys in Motion from
And
That's a
that's right,
Raven.
like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I knew he wasn't Latino, so I was surprised to see that he was playing this role, especially when he was speaking Spanish because you could tell he doesn't speak the language. But this was a common thing back then, and today they would do the casting right. Because like same goes for Lelaine and Liz McGuire that play Miranda. Do you remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Miranda character was also Mexican, but in real life she's actually Filipino as well. So,
Hmm.
and then it wasn't good to assume for Brooke to think that he was a pool boy either. That's just another stereotype. Yeah, so Brooke asks him if he lost his suit, and he says, SOSO, meaning I don't use that. And Brooke says that she had ditched Spanish the day they covered the naked verbs.
I
And
think she ditched it day one. I don't think she even attended.
mm-hmm. And then he says, I'll see you around in Spanish. So he keeps up with the charade.
Well, that's the
And
thing is he wasn't coming out saying, "I know English. I know exactly what you're saying."
yeah,
Like
but
he could have, but
it
he
just because,
didn't.
yeah, because she was assuming when she shouldn't have. But he also shouldn't have been swimming in her pool either.
I know.
Hmm. And
And
then,
naked?
yeah. And then at
What?
the,
And it's
mhm,
like daytime.
right,
It's not
in
even
the
like he was doing
morning.
it at
Hmm.
night.
Right. And then at the apartment, Healy is working on a song while putting things away in the kitchen.
Is this the first time we're hearing anything, that she's, I don't know, can sing or
Well,
can hum?
she, yeah, well, she's saying, in the cafe for Nathan that one time in season
It's
one.
just, I don't know. It's just, I mean, definitely you can tell in season 2, this is now a thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was one little thing of her being like embarrassed back in season 1. You know what I mean? Here, she's just, making up a song and it's like, huh?
Hmm.
Because it's
Yeah.
not something we've seen her do.
Hmm.
So I'm like, this is definitely new, but obviously it's for the season.
Yeah. And then she was singing every night I watch you sleep, peace and dreams. I hope you'll keep into your death with your last breath. So Nathan asks if she's writing
Are
a
you
song.
writing a song or trying to kill me? That was
Hmm.
funny.
Yeah. And then she tells him she found a car on the internet for them to buy. It's $500. And then Nathan, was thinking that they could, with extra money that they would be saving on that car, they could get TiVo and surround sound.
I don't think, no. Like, he forgets he's no longer rich.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Brooke have that in common.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand what it's like to not have money
Right.
and where you can't buy all the things you want.
Right. Yeah, so she asks Nathan to look at the car, and if it's no good, they'll keep looking. And then she adds for him to make sure the trunk's big enough for his body to fit, just in case. At the Scott's house, Deb asks if Dan wants to go for a walk. He says maybe later.
Well, he definitely, I don't know, it's weird. You don't want to go for a walk with her.
Mm-hmm.
You moved yourself back in
Right.
and now you don't want to spend any time with her.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Normally, when you move yourself back in, it's because you want to be with the person,
Mm-hmm.
but not Dan. Of course
Right.
not.
Yeah. And then Payne gets to the cafe looking for Karen. She wanted to say she's sorry that things didn't work out between her and her dad. And she was
That's
getting,
a little weird because, like, that was a long time ago.
yeah. And she was enjoying getting to know her, but we didn't see them have any scenes like that.
Didn't they only go on like one actual date?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it was really only a date.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened, did it?
No, not really.
No.
So Payne says she's hoping that they could keep in touch unless it's weird. Karen says it wouldn't be weird at all. I guess that was just her segue to get advice from her about business. Yeah, so she says that Karen's the only woman she knows that runs a business and she has an idea about having an all age club night. And yeah, so Karen thinks this sounds great and Payne says that there hasn't been any takers so far. The club managers find out she's in high school, it ends there.
Well, of course it does. Who
Mm-hmm.
wants to work with a teenager?
Right.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's called what you might call it. Oh, it's called getting sued
Oh.
if things happen. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's drinking or pot or whatever, like nobody wants to be responsible for teenagers.
You mean liability?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can get sued. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants that.
Yeah. So Karen says it only takes one person to say yes. If she believes in it, she should see it through. Eventually, someone else will see it too. And then Nathan is at work at the auto shop, cleaning and waxing a car,
My
one or the other.
God. Why is this episode so funny?
Mm-hmm.
Just everybody in it. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because Nathan is talking because he sees the cutout and he's talking as if it's his dad
Mm-hmm.
talking to him. But it was funny because it's like, oh, it's the good version or the nice version of him. Because like Heath
Right.
walks in and was like, oh, at least he's nice, the cutout version.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird because when he was talking as the cutout, he said, how's Haley? I'm like, I don't think that's something Dan would ask.
Right. It's just something he wish, Dan would consider and be thoughtful to ask.
Because all Dan wants to do is make sure it's going bad.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really care, and I don't think he'd say that.
Right. So then Keith tells Nathan that he's not going to be detailing cars forever. He's going to find him something better. Nathan says it's cool,
Like
whatever he
what?
has to do.
Like what? He admits he knows nothing about cars. What's he gonna do?
Right.
Can't be a salesman if he doesn't know anything about the cars.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's when Nathan brings up that Haley found them a car and he wants Keith to look at it for him or with him, see if it's any good. He says he'll be happy to as long as he doesn't spread that he doesn't know anything about cars around the dealership.
Mhm.
And then
All you gotta do is say your dad owns it.
yeah. He then says that he's glad that Nathan's there. It's nice to be around family. And then back at the cafe, Lucas tells Deb he's going to take off, and Deb accidentally calls him Nathan. He gives a confused look, and she says sorry, force of habit, and hands him his backpack. He says he remembered he left his history book in the kitchen, so he goes back to get it. Then Karen walks out and says she's going to be late for her first day of school. When Karen asks if Deb is going to be okay at the cafe. If Dan needs her, she can get Lucas to come in after school. Deb says she'll be fine. She doesn't think Dan needs her anyway. And she explains that he's been withdrawn, depressed, and Karen points out the doctor did say mood swings were pretty common after a heart attack, and Deb says it's more than that. Just sits in front of the TV. He won't do his rehab. Just can't reach him. Without Nathan around, she doesn't know who can. Lucas hears this after getting his textbook. And then the next
I'm
scene.
not gonna lie, it was annoying when Lucas heard it. Because you know he cares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the next scene, Lucas goes to see Dan at the house. The door was open apparently, so he walks in. He tells Dan he was wondering if he wanted to go out. Dan says no thanks, he's not up for it today. And Lucas points out that he was the one who wanted to do rehab together. Well, here he is. Dan says maybe later, and Lucas says he can only do it today, so take it or leave it. So I'm surprised that Dan was allowed to do this at home without being supervised by a professional to like log in to make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do, you know?
Well, I mean, I'm sure somebody probably comes to his house, probably, I don't know, every couple days or something. But I'm sure, is just doing things he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like that anybody's watching him besides for Deb and Lucas. So I was thinking that. And then the next scene, they're walking somewhere in the woods. Dan says it's hard to be less than what you once were. Lucas says he understands that. He's not sure if he'll ever play basketball at the same level again. He thinks about it every day.
You know, Dan's got to be a little happy
Mm-hmm.
because he just hates Lucas.
Right. Dan asks if Nathan, how Nathan's doing, and Lucas says if he really wants to know,
He's still my son.
yeah.
Ugh.
Lucas says he's good. Him and Haley are happy. He likes work at the dealership, and then this is news to Dan. Lucas explains Keith agreed to let him work there. He tells Dan he thought he knew, and this makes Dan.
Then he's like, "We're done here." I'm like, "Dang."
Yeah.
It's like you can tell. Like, how come Lucas just doesn't understand? He's using you because his son isn't around.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, Lucas, come on now. I know you care. I don't know why you care about this person, but it's like he's telling you right here, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Nathan's it. So, and you're nothing. Because if you were, he would continue the walk.
Right. Yes, Lucas says the corner is not that far where they can turn. And Dan repeats himself, saying he's done with his health. It's his call. Lucas says okay, but to let him take him back to the house. But Dan tells him to go to school and starts walking back home alone. And then Karen is
This
in her
is weird.
business
This scene.
with Karen.
Yeah, because like Andy walks in, sits down,
Mm-hmm.
and of course she thinks he's another student. He's going on about the teacher and the class and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets up and then he said who he is, Andy Hargrove. And I'm just like, okay, out of all the students in the class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you pick Karen to sit next to and start talking to her?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's so confusing. I'm like, why did you pick her out of everyone? I don't understand. It's not like she was doing anything that would make you pick her. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Yeah. Like there was no scene beforehand before he started talking to her to make him see something in her, like he
Right.
explains later. Yeah.
Like, okay, like on Dawson's Creek, like when the professors would like pick, like when Hudson would pick on Joey, it was like she
Mm-hmm.
was doing crap. That's why. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whether she was late or her phone went off or she, couldn't think of something to say or, just whatever it was, the professor, he picked on her. But it's like here, there's no reason that he needs to find Karen and sit next to her. I don't get it. Especially because we know he's young. So it's really weird. I'm like, why? Out of everyone. Did you see her in the hallway? I don't know.
Right.
It's really weird. I mean, did he like find somebody that was older than him in the classroom? I don't know.
Right. Oh,
But
crap.
that's what threw me off. I'm like,
Dang
why
it.
are you?
Yeah, but I actually did have a similar thing happen to me when I was in college with an English professor. Was it was the first day as well, and the door was locked, closed, so we were waiting outside, me and other students. And then this older woman comes up and she like stands next to me, and I was leaning against the wall, and she leaned against the wall too and started talking to me. And then after a few minutes of talking, she goes in the class. When she goes to open the door, and I'm like, "What?" So she was just like staying there talking, making conversation with me, and then opens the door to listen. So I was like, "Okay," because I thought she was another student as well. So it's just odd. Yeah. So it does happen. They don't maybe sit right next to you, but they can make you believe that
That's
they're
what that's what
the
was
same
a
as
little
you.
weird was he just it's right next to her and it's like
Right.
creepy.
Yeah. They never say exactly how old he is, at least not yet. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I thought he
not
was,
yet, but we do know he's like, in his 20s.
yeah.
Well, he did say in this episode that he sold the business or something at 25.
I
Something about the business at
think
25.
think he said 21 or started his business at 21. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then sold it because Karen said, "What would make you want to sell at 25?"
Right.
So he's in his 20s, but it's like,
And then,
but apparently he's got so much business
mm,
experience.
right. And then,
Yeah, because he said he was 21 when he made his first million.
mhm. Yeah, and then he tripled that and then tripled it again, apparently.
Yeah. So apparently Andy's rich.
Hmm. And then he goes on to give a lesson about greed, saying that that's the only way businesses can flourish. And, Karen rebuts that, saying that she knows that if you just treat people fairly, they'll come back, or treat them, nicely, they'll come back.
I agree with Karen
Me too.
because if the owner is a jerk,
Hmm.
you're not going to go back,
Right.
you know? So,
Hmm.
um, if the staff isn't nice, you're not going
Hmm.
to go back. So
Right.
I agree with Karen. Or, and
Hmm.
like she said too, if you also keep the prices down, it's another thing that they'll come back. And I agree with that too, because you're not going to go to an expensive place when you could go somewhere else that's cheaper.
Hmm. And she also said that if you price things fairly, if you make a
That's what I
quality
said.
product, yeah, you don't have to be ruthless to be successful. And nobody else agrees with her at first. So Annie says that's too bad because she's right.
It's weird because he was making her out to like look like she was wrong. And then also,
Hmm.
she's right, everyone. And I'm like,
Hmm.
really, Andy?
Yeah.
Like you literally just outed her for the whole class like that. That was rude.
Hmm. Yeah. Then he tells everybody,
On Karen's first day.
right. Yeah. So he tells everybody that they flunked today's lesson except for Karen. And he smiles at her.
And okay, you think you tell me that the class doesn't see that?
Right.
The smile, because he was just a smiling, and I'm like, all
Hmm.
righty, stop it.
Right. And then at school, Lucas almost gets run over by Felix's car. Brooke gets there a millisecond later. Because apparently Felix parked in her spot. Um, they never mentioned having assigned spots, but wasn't that a
They
thing at our
must.
school?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was trying to remember either way. But he almost did run over Lucas, so that wasn't good. Um, yeah, so she asks if Lucas is okay. He says, yeah, unless they're both dead. But then tells Felix that that's her parking spot. And once she
He don't
realizes he's
care.
the guy, yeah, when she realizes he's the guy that was swimming in her pool, she asks what he's doing here. What are you doing here? You're the pool boy, assuming again.
Well,
Just like
and then
how.
then Lucas was like, do you know this guy? She's like, no, I've just seen him naked. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
That's what Lucas wants to hear.
right. And then Felix was mocking her because he just responded to her, "You no park here," and then laughs and walks away.
That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
You no park here.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then she catches up with Felix, still calling him pool boy to wait up for her. He says she has to keep up with him, and he just isn't going to slow down for her. She brings up that he speaks English, and he says he figured that they wouldn't get very far if she kept trying to speak Spanish. And then Brooke asks who he is. She mentions how her shoes are $200, so she doesn't want to
Now,
keep walking.
I will say in the scene, I did notice that Brooke is wearing high heels.
Right.
I was like, um, I don't think anyone in our school dressed like that.
Right. Just because of the walking we had to do.
I mean, I think maybe if there was, like if they were on a sports team
Mm-hmm.
and because you'd have to dress up, maybe then they would.
Right.
But I don't think that they were just going to school with high heels on.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the girls. They were not wearing high heels.
Right.
So, like, this is definitely different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To see her. But it's a big school, Cynthia. There seems to be a lot of walking too.
Right.
You mean to tell me Brooke's going to be good with high heels all day?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know, just um I don't know, like some other typical mean girls and other stuff, like they also wear high heels. I don't know, it's just a biliardy thing, maybe
Yeah,
a rich thing.
but do you think it's accurate?
No.
I mean, eh, this is a small town, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's accurate for a small town.
Well, it might be if the school is smaller, but this school I think is, yeah, it's bigger than ours, so it's not that small.
Well, it might be bigger than ours, but I'm just saying that it's not like they're in California.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I, I just, I just find it hard to believe that she's just walking around with high heels on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he finally tells her that he's her new neighbor, which makes her the girl next door. Brooke says she doesn't believe he's her neighbor because if he was, he would have known that the house has its own pool. He replies with
He
he
likes
likes hers
hers
better.
better. Yeah, I
Mm,
was like, oh.
yeah. And then he says the thing between them is inevitable.
Do you think that
Switching.
he saw her? So he was like, cool, my neighbor has a teenager, so I'm gonna go after her.
Maybe, I don't know.
Do you know what I mean? Because think if it was just like a regular couple or like an older couple, I don't think you'd be swimming naked in their pool
Hmm.
unless you were trying to get their granddaughter or something. Do you know what I mean? So I wonder if he saw Brooke. So he was like, hey, she lives here.
Hmm.
Because that's what I'm thinking. Because otherwise, why would you just be in someone's pool? I don't get it.
Right.
Could you imagine if like if a parent came out to see that?
Right.
Like he's lucky it was Brooke.
Hmm.
Did you like when Mouth was all about Felix in this episode?
No. But back with Brooke and Felix, he said that the thing between them is inevitable and like they fight, flirt, and then maybe she slaps him, but eventually they end up in the sack together. So how about they skip the anger and cut to the sex? And Brooke says, how about they cut to the slap? And Felix says, okay, it's part of the sex. And then yeah, so Mel thinks that Felix is Brooke's best or her friend, and Brooke says
Yeah.
he's no friend of hers. And yeah, so yeah, I didn't really understand why Felix even took to, being
Mouth.
around Mouth.
I think he was
Like
just using them, obviously.
yeah.
But it's like Mouth just like glued right to him. I was like, come
Mm-hmm.
on, settle
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Um, but then he said, how's the talent around here? That's what
Mm-hmm.
Felix said.
Yeah.
And Mouth goes, sports?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
Felix is
fair.
like, keep up with me. I'm like, oh my God. He
Mm-hmm.
goes, the women. I'm like, roll
Right.
my eyes. I'm like, come on now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was funny when Felix introduced himself to Mouth. He said he's the new guy, and he says he's Mouth, the been here forever guy. Yeah, and then Felix also called the girls stock, which I didn't like either.
Come on, what?
Stock, STOCK.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they all like Brooke? And Mouth says he doesn't really know. He didn't really know what to say since he hasn't dated any of the girls. And Felix tells him not to worry, but he needs someone to show him around. So Mouth says, yeah, he'll show him around. And Felix is just like all into himself and just saying they're gonna roll strong. They're not gonna hurt anyone, but they're not. They're gonna break a few hearts. It happens. They live, you learn. And he asks
Okay, yeah.
Mouth,
Then Felix was like, um, who do you like that's available? And then Mouth's like, who do I like? And he goes, for me. Don't be
right?
selfish. I'm like, what?
Yeah, he
But
has to talk
like,
in complete sentences there.
Mouth is looking at Brooke. Did you notice
Mm-hmm.
that? And I
Yeah.
was like, oh. And
Mm-hmm.
then he was like, oh, what about her? And he goes, no, too young, which I when I saw the girls, I was like, he's gonna say they're young. And then
Mm-hmm.
he did, and I was like, yep, I knew that
Yeah.
was coming. Then he goes, then he said, you want to hit it, not babysit it. I'm like, what?
Right.
Oh my God, Felix. How old is this
Yeah.
Felix? Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's a jerk.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nice to see that he's not to like really young girls, but he was still a creep with that line.
But then he runs into Peyton and Haley.
Mm-hmm.
And then he out of just nowhere, I feel like he's into Haley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did you think though when he was like, when he said, girl, you're totally fine. And she goes, um, dude, I'm totally married.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And holds
like,
up her ring
yeah,
to show him.
but yeah, and then he goes, who's the father?
Mm-hmm.
And then Nathan comes up.
Yeah, perfect
Aren't
timing.
you a little too close?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
And then
my
Felix
God.
says, I guess it's you. And then they both walk off. Yeah, so Felix only has one thing in his mind, being at
Yeah, but
school.
this episode, he's into Haley.
Mm-hmm.
Like this isn't the first and only time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just going after any girl he sees that's age appropriate. And then Mouth explains that she's not pregnant. They are married. And Felix says, yeah. And he saw
I
the
saw the
ring.
ring.
Yeah, she likes poor guys. Oh, how would he even know that Nathan is poor, first of all? Maybe the ring, because it was just a little band, but still.
Probably, but I'm like, little does he know that it's Nathan Scott and he comes from
Mm-hmm.
money.
Yeah.
Like, really, Felix?
Yeah. And Payne tells Mouth this should be interesting. And then the next scene is at the river court. Mouth says he showed Felix around and he seems cool. His family, they move every year. And Fergie acts like
Oh
witness
my God, witness
protection.
protection. I
Yeah.
busted out laughing. I was like, Fergie is funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
Witness protection. I was like, what?
Right.
Uh,
With the way Felix acts, you think that he would make some enemies like that. So,
Oh, I'm sure at all of his other schools, he's got plenty of enemies.
hmm
I wonder if that's why he leaves the schools
yeah, it has to be. Yeah, because he kind of
because
disappears later
nobody
on.
likes him. So he just goes to another one.
Yeah. So Mouth explains that his family is Doctors Without Borders. They've been all over the world. His parents are opening up a private clinic in town. So obviously it was short-lived because we never see the clinic, we never hear about the clinic, and I guess
Or see the parents.
yeah. So who knows what happened with that. And then Nathan gets there and asks, who are they talking about? Mouse says Felix, the new guy. Lucas asks
He
Nathan if he
was
met him.
he was hitting on Haley. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
And then Nathan mentions to Lucas he thought he wasn't supposed to be playing basketball. Lucas says a little pickup every now and then ain't gonna kill him. He asks if Nathan wants to run with him, and Nathan says he's on his way home. He has a lot of studying to do, and he has to work tomorrow. So he can only do one shot. And he makes a basket. Then Lucas asks how work's been. Nathan says he's cool, a lot cooler than his dad ever was. And it's weird how the closest contact with him now is a cardboard cutout. Lucas says he may have screwed things up for Nathan and Dan. And he asks about him, and he had mentioned to Dan about the dealership gig. And then Lucas says to Nathan that his mom is having trouble getting him to rehab, so he figured he would try, if that's cool with Nathan. Nathan says after everything you know about the guy, is Lucas sure he wants to let him in? And Lucas says when he had his heart attack, he figured that's it. They're never going to get to know each other, but he
But
didn't
like
die.
Nathan, but it's just weird. I mean, you can tell Nathan misses Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the stuff Dan does, like Nathan still misses him.
Right.
But how'd you like when we go to Dan and Keith?
Yeah, and Keith,
And he right away,
yeah,
Dan goes,
Dan.
I want you to fire Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
And then the name over the front door says Dan Scott Motors. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Yeah, and
love how
Keith,
Keith was sticking up for him and was like, I'm not gonna
yeah.
fire him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to, you gotta go back to work and fire him yourself.
Right.
I was like, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he said that as long as he's running things, he's going to make hiring decisions as he sees fit. And he tells Dan the word is actually, he actually has a heart in his chest. When doesn't he try thinking of Nathan? And Dan says if Nathan can support a wife, he'll never realize what a colossal mistake this marriage is.
And then he said he's emancipated, which is true. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
Dan forgets that. And so does Deb. It's like, what? So even if he wasn't married, he's gonna come back to you? He was
Right.
happy living alone.
Mm-hmm.
He would rather live alone than live with the two of you.
Yeah. Yeah. So he tells Dan if he wants him fired, he has to do it himself.
Yeah.
And then back at school, Felix and Mouth are walking in
Mouth.
the hallways.
Oh, mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like Felix is trying to help Mouth with his vibe, and he says geeky and shy are not a vibe. Felix says he's not geeky, he's sensitive, he's not shy, he's mysterious. Girls love that. And then yeah, that's when he asks Mouth if there's anybody special he's looking to impress. Mouth sees Brooke in the hall with
I
Hayden.
love I love when Luke comes up. Lucas comes up.
Hmm.
And again, mouth is just all over Felix.
Hmm. Yeah, I liked how Lucas asked him if he ran over anybody else today. And then Felix is like, I know it's hard when the big dog comes to town. Not sure where he stands anymore, but it gets easier.
That's
And pats him on
gross.
the arm.
And
Hmm. Felix
then
then
it's weird
sees,
because like he brings up like you and Brooke or was it you and Peyton? I'm like, hmm. Dude,
hmm
shut up.
yeah,
And it's like, and he's just, he said like he had psychic superpowers. What? Yeah, I don't think so.
right. And Lucas assumed that Mal told him about Brooke and Kaden, but Mal says he didn't say anything. And Felix explains that he just been to 8 schools in 10 years, so he knows how to read people.
And wonder why.
Hmm. So Lucas just says they're all friends, and Felix says if that's his story, and walks away.
And mouth chases him.
Yeah. And then Haley gets home, where Nathan surprises her and says how much does she love him. And Haley asks if they have the car. Nathan says to close her eyes, and Haley asks if the car's in the apartment. She closes her eyes, and he leaves her to stand in front of the keyboard that has a red bow on it. He tells her to open her eyes, and she does, and asks if she loves it.
And she's not happy.
Yeah. She's speechless at first and turns around,
And then she
asks what
said
did he,
that Keith said that the car was no good. So apparently Nathan decided just to buy something
right? Yeah,
instead
Haley
of
is
saving the
surprised.
money.
Yeah, Haley is surprised.
It's like Nathan has no idea. Like you need to save the money, boy.
Hmm. Yeah, and they have this conversation later about that.
Hmm.
Because he doesn't understand that Haley, loves it, but they need the money for a car, so she tells him to take it back. And Nathan's like kind of offended that she doesn't like does she not like it? And Haley says, of course she likes it, it's beautiful, but they do need the car. And then Nathan says they can get a car anytime. And Haley's
Okay.
like, what magic beans? Yeah, so she knows he's never had to deal with money before, but things are different now. Yeah, so he was just really believing in her music that he wants her to work on. Yeah, but I didn't like how Nathan reacted to Lee saying to take it back because he was like, I was just trying to do something nice for you. Yeah, so I didn't like that because I did agree on a car. And then like soon afterward, I guess. Haley is shopping with Brooke, telling her what happened. She says it's a beautiful gift, but they work so hard to save that money. Brooke says boys are clueless. She's 30 years away from giving them up for good. And then Payne steps out of the changing room and asks Brooke and Haley what do they think of her outfit. Does it say let me promote an all ages club for a night? And Brooke says not enough skin. And she throws a black bra at Payne and tells her to try with that. And Brooke goes back into the dressing room. And then Brooke's looking at the price tag for another bra. She thinks it's way too high for two doilies and a piece of wire, she says, and then puts it back. And Haley's shocked she's not going to try it on. Brooke says, not
I love
today.
how all of a sudden Brooke's like, no, basically I'm giving up shopping. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
coming from you? Like,
Right.
oh, that's too much money.
Mm-hmm. And then Payne tells Brooke that this was a shopping day she will never ever get back again. And she lets Brooke know that if she wants, if she's still waiting her ATM card, she can borrow her the cash. Brooke says it's okay. Her dad just a deposit it to her account. And then Payne walks out with a more casual but cooler outfit with a leather jacket, black top, and jeans. Brooke and Haley like it. Brooke says if the band manager is a guy, she's golden. And then I was surprised that Haley was the one that brought up Felix now.
Yeah, I mean, she has a husband.
Yeah, I guess it's because she was so shocked that Felix, was hitting on her. Because Payne says he's hot and totally vibing on her married girl. And no wonder Nathan's jealous. But I didn't
And
really see
then,
Nathan being
well,
jealous.
he was. I mean, remember him on the river court?
Yeah,
But it was funny because Brooke's like, why would Nathan be jealous of Felix?
yeah,
It was funny.
yeah. The boy is repellent. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that wasn't a comment she needed to make, but she felt like she had to. Yeah, because she said that he's been in town for 5 seconds and he's already butting in everybody else's business, bossing people around and acting like he owns the place.
I love when Payne was like, um, he's you in pants.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Yeah,
like, what? I'm like,
yeah,
no.
I was kind of surprised they said pants, because they didn't say like with like a penis or at least a guy. In general, like it's you as a guy. I mean, he's you as a guy, just because it's been decades since women have been wearing pants already. That's
Hmm.
why that was odd. But Brooke says he's not and throws a shirt at Peyton. Really, really as he kind of is. And Brooke says she hates them both and looks at the bra again. And then the next scene, Karen and Andy are somewhere near campus. I'm
This is
guessing,
okay. Andy came in, I feel like too hot, like too bold, too, because, this is the first time you're meeting this guy for the
right?
show.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and now he is meeting her outside of class. It's like, dude, you just met,
Right.
and you're also her professor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know you're too young to understand that, but you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you think he came in too hot or no?
Yeah, yeah, he did.
Because I feel like he's in a lot of this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he asked her, how does she feel about college? And she says her teacher is unorthodox and younger than she expected. And then he says, so she's one of those maturity likers. And then he says, sorry, he sucks at grammar. And then, Karen too asks him why did he pick her out of class? And he says, he always tries to find someone to torment. He likes to find a student that can give him a run for his money. Like I said, since he never talked to Karen before that moment, that doesn't make sense because how could he know that?
And
Um,
then apparently she did a Google search on him and he's got a
hmm
lot of money.
yeah.
But then it
So,
was weird because he goes, yeah, it is. And I'm like,
hmm
isn't it a little cocky? Like you're literally saying, yeah, it's a lot of money. Like I got a lot of money. It's like, calm down.
yeah, he sold it for 50 million apparently. He says he got bored, took some risks, business picked up, and when he hit 50 million, he realized he could coast on that forever. But what's the point if you're not getting challenged? So that's when Karen asks if teaching is a challenge for him. He says it scares him to death. He just knows one of the weasels in the front row is going to ask him a question he can't answer. And Andy asks Karen if she ever thought about growing her business, and Karen says sure. She even drew up the plans. But it was never the right time. And it says it never is. Just gotta figure it out and as you go along. And then next scene is with Kaden trying to convince a band manager to agree to having his band perform an all ages club night. She says she knows they could get a club owner to agree to try it out. Guy
I
says his
will
bands
say,
don't play kids.
Peyton looked good.
Mm-hmm.
I like the jacket and everything.
Yeah. So then Payne keeps pushing the idea onto him. He says he's not interested, which little addition of that actually would have been a good thing if it was completely dropped at that point. It was just then that one of the band members walks out and says that their singer backed out, so they're mad about that. And Payne tells them she was there for their first show and that there's only 20 people in the crowd, but their energy was real. It looked like they were going to explode on stage, but that's what made it work. And the band feels better about their work, and the manager is impressed. And then Lucas goes to see Dan again. Dan apologizes for the crappy mood the other day. He shouldn't have taken it out on him. Lucas says it's cool, but if it starts to become a habit, he's going to have to find another trainer. And then Lucas asks if he got a new car. And Dan says it's from a dealership. He likes to drive the new models so he can tell customers what they're getting.
Yeah, and then he asked Lucas, "You want to drive it?"
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's like the look on Dan and like you just knew it was coming. Like him
Mm-hmm.
having Lucas drive him.
Right. Yeah, because apparently the doctor didn't clear him to drive. Yeah, so he wants Lucas to tell him how it is. Um, and then along the way, they can stop to do some rehab. He can barely walk without being out of breath, but at least he has his work. He'd really be helping him out. So then Lucas takes the keys from Dan. And then Payne is still talking to the band manager who tells her she has to take care of them. She has to be part cheerleader, babysitter, therapist, getting them on board to play for an all ages club night isn't all she needs to do. And
Well,
Payne
no,
says,
yeah, what she really needs to do is the drugs.
right. Yeah, because he's like casual about it, listing like she needs to get them food, drink, drugs. And then he says he'll
And he
set her up
brings
with
it
the
out
guys.
and
Yeah.
everything. I was like, oh God, like
Mm-hmm.
here we go.
Yeah, because he set it up in front of her while he was talking.
Like this is why underage kids should
Mm-hmm.
not be in clubs.
Right. Yeah, he says he can tell he tells people he has a good sense of he can get a good sense of people, and she's young, but she might be worth the risk. And that's when he holds up the rolled up dollar
Can he
bill to
tell
her.
that she like doesn't have any parents around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at first, she tells him no thanks. He says that this is her shot and pushes the line towards her. He gives her another chance to take the dollar. Then we don't see what she
I
does.
was gonna say it makes you look like she's about to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because she really wants that club.
Right. And then Hillary did talk about this, filming this. She didn't like it either. And originally they had said that they wanted her to like lean forward as if she was going to do it, but she fought against it and they decided not to show it. But which is good because I think the mystery is better anyhow, even though they didn't really explain, if she did it or not later with when she was talking to Brooke. She looked pretty normal.
Well, she did later on say it's not gonna work out, which means I don't think she took it.
Right. And then
Well,
yes.
I think her just with the look on her face and everything was good enough. I don't think we needed anything more.
Hmm. And then when she sees Brooke, Brooke ends up telling her that about her credit card getting declined before. Turns out her family's broke. Her dad's company went under and they're filing for bankruptcy, and her mom said they might have to sell the house. And Brooke starts crying and says she loves
I
being
love
rich. She's
being
good at it.
rich. Oh my
Hmm.
God.
Yeah. And Payne next is that why Felix is getting under her skin because he's the rich guy next door. And Brooke says maybe. Payne says it's just money. There is so much more to her than that. And Brooke
Yeah, but
agrees.
that's my favorite part.
Yeah. And then Brooke asks, Payne about the meeting. And yeah, like you said before, it didn't work out. And then Dan
And
and Lucas,
she's not really going to talk about it because her friend is now
hmm
poor.
right. And then Dan and Lucas are in the car now driving. Dan is listing off artists. Lucas can't believe Dan listens to metal music. Dan even says he owns his own spandex. Lucas says that's not a vision he wanted to have in his head.
So
And
I'm not going to
then,
lie, I did love Dan and Lucas in the car.
hmm
It was a really good scene.
Right.
You didn't like it?
No, I did, yeah. And then just then Felix pulls up next to them at the
Oh
red
my
light.
God.
Yeah.
And then he wants to race.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And he's on the wrong side of the road too. So that was Felix's intention. So I don't know if he saw that it was like if he was just gonna race anybody or if he saw it was Lucas before he even pulled up next to him.
I
That was
think
my
he saw it was
question.
Lucas.
Okay. Yeah, so Felix says he'll race him for that girlfriend, Brooke, and Lucas tells him that she's his ex. And Felix says which was inevitable once he got into town and don't hate the player, hate the game. And Dan
Oh my
asks
God.
Lucas,
But Dan was funny because he was like, he goes, don't tell me. Or he goes, tell me you're gonna wipe that smirk off that punk's face.
mm-hmm,
I was
yeah,
like, of course Dan's encouraging this.
right. And then
But it was funny because like Lucas at first is like hesitant. He's like, no, like this isn't my car. Then it's like once Dan says it, Lucas is like, all right, game on.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so they both take off and the light turns green and then they kind of get out of each other going back and forth. And then when Lucas is in front, there's a truck coming toward them and uh,
So Lucas starts to slow down
mm-hmm,
and to let Felix in so you know he don't die.
yeah,
And then of course Felix has to say something
mm-hmm,
because he calls him a chicken.
mm-hmm,
I was like, really, Felix? Like he saved your life.
right.
And then
Yeah,
I will say, I never thought I'd hear Dan say this, but he said to Lucas, "You did the right thing." I went, "Is this
right.
really Dan Scott?" Because he would be like Felix. You should have
Mm-hmm,
kept going. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
When has Dan ever said like step down, that kind of stuff? Like he would not.
mm-hmm,
Like this is definitely a different Dan.
right. And then Felix acts too. Lucas has Ryan's shotgun, and Lucas doesn't know what to call Dan. So
He's
Dan
like,
introduces himself.
yeah, he goes, he goes, Dan Scott, Scott Motors. I'm like, oh
Hmm.
my God.
Yeah, and tells him when he's ready to trade up, come down to the dealership. And
I
then
mean,
Deb goes
what
to,
is Lucas supposed to call Dan?
I don't know, just Dan.
That's how you're gonna refer to him. This is Dan. Well,
Yeah, I
who's
don't know.
Dan? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like, it wasn't really Felix's business to know that Dan was like his
No,
birth
but he
father.
seems to know a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, did he do a background check on everybody?
Hmm. And then, yeah, Deb goes to finish visits Karen at her house to show her the new menus that they just got printed out. And Deb asks why she didn't go through, which, because she sees the plans on the table. So, Karen tells her that she's just doing it for a class, but that she has thought about it before. It's just never the right time. And, Deb says that, is she reconsidering? And Karen says that, the more she plays around with these fake companies, the more she's thinking maybe like, it shouldn't just be an exercise. She had always hoped to branch out someday. And Deb says, it's not a bad idea. She'll be one of her investors.
I'm confused with that.
Hmm.
I thought Deb was like a partner in Karen's Cafe.
Yeah, she is.
So if she expands,
Hmm.
wouldn't Deb be expanding too?
Well, no, because it's not like it'd be another Karen Cafe. It's like a whole different business. And Deb only signed up to be a business partner on the cafe, so Karen could easily do this as like a project of her
Yeah,
own.
but she didn't say it would be like a new name and everything. She just said expansion and that she kind of like wanted to expand all over. And if that's the case, like it's a business deal. I don't know. She never said it was like a new name or anything, like a new brand. So I'm just like confused. I was like, okay,
Yeah, she did say it's a cafe expansion plan from a million years ago,
yeah,
and she was gonna add a bar.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
so I don't know.
So that's why I was confused because I'm like, if Deb is, she's somewhat, a partner in this, she'd be
Hmm.
a partner in the bar.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
So that's what threw me off. But I guess she's going to be supportive and be the partner or whatever in this no matter what.
Hmm. And then yeah, Deb says that she knows Karen and how hard she'll work, so she's all aboard for it. And then back at the lingerie store, Brooke is looking at the same bra from earlier.
And then steals it.
Hmm. Yeah, but
Much
then of
like when
course,
she got caught.
yeah, when she walked through the alarm and the
I
employee,
mean, she's lucky Felix showed up
right? Yeah, that
because
was very
I don't think she was going to get out of that one.
right. That was very timed
Mm-hmm.
coincidence, you
Nope,
know.
he's just walking right by.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, so he tells the employee that she was actually going to buy it for him and she's just shy about stuff like this. And she said she was going to show him outside, and that was it.
Did you see him grab that employee?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I was like, what? All you have to
Hmm.
do is say, can you ring this up? You did
Yeah.
not have to grab her arm as if she's in
Hmm.
trouble and take her over there. I was like, what, Felix? Like, stop touching her. Like,
Right.
mm-mm. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Where is the man? Like, I don't know if that's the manager, but it's like, I just didn't like it. I'm like, Felix, and that was a pretty hard grab too.
Hmm.
It wasn't like a little light touch. It was a full on him grabbing her. You could see his muscle. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was too much. I was like, no, that was uncalled for.
Right. I guess it was his bad way of trying to get the employees' attention off of Brooke as fast as possible.
But it doesn't matter. You grabbed her.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying.
Isn't that assault
Hmm.
in my eyes?
Yeah. So
And then
then
Brooke, and
Lucas,
then Brooke walks away, and I'm like, really, Brooke? Like you got yourself into this?
yeah, she was just embarrassed and just wanted to get out of there.
I know.
And then Lucas and Dan get back to Dan's house after
And
almost
Dan,
witnessing Felix's death.
and then Dan asks Lucas if he wants the car,
Hmm.
and then Lucas, of course, ruins the moment, and was like, "You can't buy me."
Right. Well, I did see that's kind of what Dan was doing.
It is, but that's what he did with Nathan.
Hmm. Yeah, Nathan's different though.
But he still did it.
Hmm.
It's not new to him. This isn't a new thing. It's just a Dan
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not because he likes Lucas at all. It's he wants Lucas to drive a nice car to show Nathan that he's got a new car.
Hmm.
I'm sure that's his whole plan is give Lucas what Nathan used to have.
Right. Yeah, Dan just said that this is what he does for the people he cares about, and Lucas said so he
Luke, you
cares now.
care?
Hmm. Yeah, doesn't even know him. And Dan says he wants to more than he knows.
He goes, "You almost had me."
Hmm. And then back in
But
town.
I was shocked though when Lucas said that he enjoyed the day up until then.
Hmm.
But I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, it was fun.
Hmm. And then back in town, Felix catches up with Brooke. He says some town she has here. All the relationships are inbred. One of the hottest girls gets married, if that's even legal, and the rich girl shoplifts for kicks. And Brooke asks him what he was doing in the store, and he says he needed a new catalog. Besides, you meet the trashiest girls and lingerie shops. I didn't like that.
Well, and I didn't like it because I'm like, what's wrong with Brooke?
Mm-hmm.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because he
Because
said
yeah.
hot for Haley, but he didn't say hot for Brooke. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what?
Yeah, he
You know
just
what I
called her a
mean?
rich
I'm
girl.
like,
Yeah.
what are you
And indirectly
talking
called her
about?
trash. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she just says it was a mistake and she like for it to stay between them. Felix says he can keep a secret,
I don't think he can.
right? He says she'll just have to trust him, and Brooke says she doesn't really know him well enough to trust him. And he says she will. And then says she might as well have the bra. He plans on seeing her in it soon, which is
Nope.
gross. And then, Brooke snatches the bag from him and says, "Not a chance in hell." And he says, "You're welcome." And then calls her, when, you know what? I can never say her name. Um,
Why not?
Renona, yeah, writer, yeah. because of her, her shoplifting scandal. So I didn't like that. And then the next scene, Nathan gets into the car. Dan had offered Lucas to take it back to the dealership.
I love
Yeah.
when Nathan just comes over, gets right in it. And
Mm-hmm.
Dan's like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, we got a call to remove it."
Right. And yeah, so Dan says he had a heart attack. He could have died, and he wasn't going to go inside to see him. And Nathan says they both know that's never going to happen. He can't mess with anyone if he dies. And Dan says he wants them to talk. Nathan says about what, and then that's when Dan asks about his wife, and Deb steps outside now and sees
And he goes,
Nathan.
and he goes, because his answer was a lot happier than yours.
Yep, and drives off. And then back at Dan's Scott Motors, Nathan is mopping. Keith walks in and tells Nathan he wants to show him a couple of basics with the car. And Nathan says this is cool because his dad never taught him this stuff.
I don't think Dan knows about that side of the cars.
Right.
I think he only knows the brand new ones and how to sell them. I don't think he actually knows the details of the cars,
Mhm.
like the engines and stuff.
Right. Then Nathan puts his foot in his mouth because he says that
He said
he
he
didn't.
didn't want him to be like
Yeah.
Keith without saying his
Yeah.
name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Keith finished his sentence with he didn't want him to be or get grease under his fingernails like him. Nathan
Mm-hmm.
says that's his dad, not him. And then Keith asks how it went at the house. Nathan says pretty much what do you expect? He had to think he think that he had so much fun. He's gonna go back tonight to disappoint Haley some more. And Keith asks if Haley didn't like the keyboard. Nathan says no, she liked it. She just wanted it to have four wheels and a
I
trunk.
love when Keith showed him the car,
Mm-hmm.
hoping to save their marriage, and but Nathan goes, "It was probably a sweet ride back when dinosaurs ruled the earth."
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So Keith said that he was gonna sell it for parts, but they could fix it up together and then Nathan can have it.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan
And
and Keith fixing it up together.
yeah, because Nathan even asked if it's like a family project, and Keith said yeah. And then it was funny when he tossed the towel down on the top of the car and just making the piece underneath it fall to the ground. And he tells Nathan they'll fix that.
Mm-hmm.
And then back at the apartment, Haley is playing with the keyboard now. Nathan walks in. He says if he had to know she couldn't play any better than that, he wouldn't have brought it home for her.
Now she likes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says he wants to apologize. That was her money too. And Haley says it's not like that. She overreacted, probably because she loves the gift and she loves him for getting it for her. Probably because they can't be careless as they used to be now if they want to make this marriage work.
That's when he brings up he's only had money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's not good managing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nathan tells her he wants her to keep the keyboard. She has talent and she needs to use it. Besides, he tells her about a car with keys. Haley is excited now and she loves the keyboard and after hearing this news and she tells him thank you. And then back at Deb's, Dan is looking at old photos in an album book. Deb is hurt that Nathan didn't want to see her.
I
Deb
mean,
says,
but I agree with Dan. He didn't want to see either one of them. He was trying
yeah,
to get away,
mm-hmm,
but that car didn't turn on that fast
right,
to drive away.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dan says that, when Nathan was little, he used to go to work with him and didn't mind getting up earlier because he wanted to spend time with his dad. Now he's thinking it was a lie.
Yeah, but
That
that's
would,
what boys do. You want to
mm-hmm,
spend time with your dad,
right,
even girls. It's
mm-hmm,
just what fathers and kids do. And
mm-hmm,
then you become a teenager and don't like your parents anymore.
right. So he asked Deb what if he spent his life chasing the wrong thing, success, money, respect, whatever turns out none of it mattered, and because he lost his family along the way.
Isn't
He
it weird
asked
that
if,
he's bringing all this up?
yeah, like, is it too late to get back? She says she doesn't know. Then takes his hand and then he stands up and kisses her on the forehead. So they kind of had a moment, but then he was like so focused on Nathan, he didn't really like, let her comfort him.
I don't think he cares.
Yeah, that too.
She did one of the worst things ever again.
Hmm. Yeah.
But this time it was with her brother or with his brother, so I don't think he really
Hmm.
cares.
Yeah. And then at Pam's house, she's drawn aggressively. It's a drawing of the band manager's POV with her in front of him, holding the cocaine in front of her, saying, "Here's your chance, kid. What do you say?" Just then Karen calls her. They meet at the warehouse. Karen says it was such a good space for Nathan and Haley's party. She thinks it'd be a great club. Good club, and the only thing she's going to need is someone to run it with an all ages night. Tells Payne her idea is great and she knows she'll be worth the risk. So I noticed that that's what the band manager said too about Payne being worth the risk. But at least Karen isn't making Payne do drugs to get her club night, you know? But it's just interesting to see the two parallels of that.
Well, yeah, Karen's gonna let Payne basically do what she wants as long as it's legal.
Hmm. And then, you know, Karen asks, what does Payne think? But we don't see what she says, of course, as a cliffhanger. And then the next scene, we see Dan sitting watching
Another
TV.
scene of Andy.
Oh, yeah. Walking to the cafe, he tells Karen he'll give her $1,000 for a decent cup of coffee.
And that was weird because he used a decent cup of
Yeah,
coffee. Like,
right.
like if you're trying to flirt, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think saying a decent cup of coffee is going to make
Impress
somebody
her.
happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went about that the wrong way.
I'm like, first of all, I would take the 1,000, but I'm just like, you could have just said a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and I
Why'd you
didn't
have to
like how,
wear decent?
right. And I didn't like how he was being like stuck up, like, you know, as if he can like give that much money away or anything because he has so much of it.
Yeah, he's like that rich boy. It's like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. And the
It's
next
like we
part,
get it. Well, I think the whole thing is like we get it, Andy. You have money.
mm-hmm.
Every time you're on screen in this episode, you seem to want to throw around that you have money.
Right.
It's talked about every scene he's in.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I mean I think he came in a little too strong, and
Right.
not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we supposed to like Andy?
Right.
It didn't start off that way.
Mm-hmm. And the next part, we see Brooke get out of pool and says Felix was right. Her pool is better. And then just like him in her pool, she swam naked in his pool as well. So when she gets out, he has a towel for her. Yeah, so first watch, I didn't think that she would cave in like that quickly.
Well, I guess he helped her out legally.
Yeah.
So with that bra situation, so I don't know.
Hmm.
I know, given who Brooke is, you wouldn't think so, but maybe she does like this Felix guy.
Hmm.
I sure don't.
Right.
And see, the thing is, like, I don't want Brooke with him because I don't like him.
Hmm.
But I mean, I do feel like Felix helped this episode.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's what I mean. That we like our villains,
Hmm.
at least on this show.
Right. Yeah, so that was the episode.
So for me, my high, I'm gonna go with Nate, or oh my God, I'm gonna go with Lucas and Dan in the car,
Hmm.
and then the car chase.
Right.
I liked that Dan and the Lucas were spending time together, but I mean, it still was odd. I still have no idea why Lucas cares so much about Dan. I'll never
Hmm.
understand that. But but yeah, I did like their scenes,
Hmm.
and the car chase was fun.
Yeah. My high was seeing Nathan and Keith bond over work, and then I liked how Haley finally came around to accepting the keyboard as well. And then my low was the whole uh, drag race scene because Felix was basically willing to die just to show that he was better than Lucas, so I didn't like
Well,
that.
at least he would kill himself
Or yeah.
because unlike Dawson's Creek, what's her face was willing to kill Pacey.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Um, but also my low. I didn't say my low. I the low was Andy coming in too hot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. No, no.
Yeah.
Well, all I did was own money. We get it.
Right. And then rating?
Um, I would rate this an 8. It was actually pretty entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
And then who was your best and worst?
My best was Keith because he was helping Nathan out, checking out the car for him. And then apparently he talked to Nathan about getting the keyboard to Haley because he already knew about it before she didn't like it. And then he was willing to give the old car, fix it up with Nathan and give it to him afterward. And then the worst, he didn't have a name, but the band manager who gave Payne the cocaine, or tried to at least.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the worst was that cocaine guy.
Mm-hmm.
But who I almost chose was Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, he was belittling her.
Right.
I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the best, I actually went with Keith, surprising. Um, because I did like that he stood up to Dan about hiring Nathan and not firing him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I did like how he's there for Nathan. It's like he's showing him, see, I'm here for both of my nephews. I love them. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
Dan, who's, trying to win one over.
Right.
But yeah, I love how he found their car and he's gonna help Nathan fix it up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually gonna show him how to fix it up. Instead of like Dan who would just pay somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Keith is the best.
Yeah.
And then what's the next episode?
Episode 5, I Will Dare.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Yep, and we see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Duo Chat. If you want to chime in with your opinion about the episode and the show we discussed, you can email us at duochatpodcast@gmail.com. And to keep up with updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Duo Chat Podcast. And give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it.